When you go to law school or you live in just the society, you think, oh, the bad guy goes to prison. You don't think, oh, there's innocent men and women sitting in prison, and there shouldn't be. And so when you hear about innocence work, I mean, I would hope that everybody's perception changes and thinks, there's a problem here, and we need to work on it.
There's really no class of people that are in more need of help than somebody who has been wrongfully convicted, because they're separated from their families, they're separated from society, they're separated from their ability to earn an income, and they're stuck in prison. They have absolutely, in the most instances, no resources to defend themselves or to help themselves. And so it's an agency, it's an entity like Rocky Mountain Innocence Center that provides a hand to these folks who really have nobody else.
The system works most of the time, but it doesn't work all of the time. And the real challenge of innocent work is to figure out those few instances when it hasn't worked and when it's been a total failure because the stakes are so high.
There's still this naive view that our system works 100% of the time, that it just can't be that we're convicting innocent people.
I had rented a room at Ball Motel, a poolside room, and we were going to have a birthday party for my daughter, and then we were going to go take a trip to Lagoon. I had just pulled in the motel, got the key to my room and everything, and was unlocking the trunk to get her birthday cake out. And here walked up this fella, said, "Deb Brown, you remember me?" And he was just a plain clothes fella. I said, "No, should I?" And he said, "Yeah, I was the first officer at the scene of the crime." And he says, "I've got a warrant for your arrest." Okay, looking around for cameras, no cameras. And it didn't take too long to figure out I wasn't getting punked. It was for real. I got arrested. And at first I was so mad. I mean, the birthday cake and our plans and poolside room and Lagoon, and that was nothing compared to what was coming. I didn't breathe freedom after that day.
You know, there's this idea that when someone is convicted of a crime that they are guilty. I mean, there is this belief that our system gets it right. And so once they've had their trial and once they've had their appeal, there's this belief that they should now sit back and do their time in a responsible way. They should admit their guilt, they should reform, and ultimately if we're going to parole them or allow them out again, it's because they've taken responsibility. The problem is the innocent person can't do that.
Anyhow, they get really angry if you don't take responsibility for what you're in there for. So they give me 20 years to think about it. Kind of copped a deal with God one day. There's a lot of the population in the Utah State Prison that's drug addicts, just young kids. And I told him if he'd just take care of my kids and help take care of their needs, keep them safe, that I'd take care of these kids in there that the parents didn't have access to. And it worked out pretty good because it sort of gave me a purpose, you know. Made me feel like, you know, there's a reason.
I went in and I talked with Alan, and he said, well, we have the opportunity to represent Ms. Brown and a claim we're bringing for her exoneration.
We're talking not about technical issues, we're talking about innocence, actual innocence, and by actual innocence, it means that the person did not commit the crime for which he or she was convicted, so that's all we're talking about.
It was in, I believe, 2002 that I got a letter from this place called Rocky Mountain, wanted to know if they could get involved in my case, if I could, yeah, where I signed. Are you kidding me? Can you? Will you? And they stayed involved. I mean, it's not something that happened overnight. And you know what? Just to have somebody sit and listen to you and actually walk away believing you, it was worth everything.
You know, we hit obstacle after obstacle in Deborah's case. We never knew how we were going to prove she was innocent or what ultimately was going to do it, but we weren't about to give up until we could do it. We teach our students that the key to this work is tenacity and persistence.
Hundreds of hours and years uncovering facts, going up back and forth to Logan, finding or getting police and prosecutor files, and piecing together how it was that Miss Brown got wrongfully convicted.
Every time I hear of a new case, it's newly shocking to me. Some of these cases I look at and I think it's just absolutely astonishing that these people were convicted for these crimes.
While you're doing this work, it's so many roadblocks, and it feels like you're always hitting a brick wall and no one's ever going anywhere. You're hearing, oh, this evidence was destroyed, or this attorney is missing, or you can't find this witness, and then finally something works. And it's so rewarding. It's such an exciting moment.
Just knowing that somebody was out there believing and fighting for you and doing what they could made a world of difference.
We treated the Deb Brown case as we would every other case we handled for paying clients. I don't think there was anyone in the courtroom who would have believed at the close of her testimony that she could have murdered anyone.
There's really nothing that can compare to walking an innocent person out of prison, especially after you've worked on their case for 4, 5, 10 years.
The high point was, of course, getting that ruling, but that was almost the high point. The high point was seeing, Deb walk out of prison and be reunited with her family.
And we went to the corrections department office, and to the office of the warden, where Deb was just talking with the head of corrections and the warden, and just passing the time. I never thought I would see that, actually. So she came out, we hugged each other, and then we drove around to the parking lot of the women's unit.
The day I got out, well, I got to sit in the front of Alan's vehicle, no restraints except a seatbelt. And my 3 kids were in the back, and it was like we all just took a step back in time. And I kept feeling like somebody pinched me.
To be there and to see that my work had paid off by having Miss Brown released and reunited with her family, I'm not sure anything will ever top that in my career in the law.
There was a little kind of party that had been organized by Deb's friends and relatives who were all expecting her to be released at that gate. And so we drove up there, and as I say, it was raining like crazy, and it was just a great moment. It was really terrific.
I love rainstorms now.
The exonerations are, of course, a huge part of what we do, but we've also had amazing legislative successes. We've been able to really look at these fissures and trends and start to do something about them, to ask that eyewitness ID be reformed, to record interrogations to make sure there isn't a false confession, to really look at the sciences and decide what we're going to allow into court. So it makes a difference not only for the individual, but for the system. We're a small organization. We're a mostly volunteer organization, but we've had some really amazing successes over the years.
They're like breathing air back in your lungs or rescuing a cancer patient. Without their help and their involvement, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
We just don't give up, and we can't. We can't give up on these people. Everybody else has given up on them. We can't. We'll find a way to bring people home. No matter if they're innocent, we'll find a way to bring them home.